Alright, welcome back to Basement Movie Room. A little something different. We both recently watched Midnight Mass on Netflix. We finished all 7 episodes, so we wanted to talk about it because it was an experience, certainly. So we got it playing right here, so you may hear it in the background. But Midnight Mass is a new series from Mike Flanagan, who you may recognize as being the creator of Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. He's done some movies as well, but he's pretty well known at this point for making kind of a horror type series. Now, I don't qualify Midnight Mass as a horror series ultimately, even though it has horror elements, because I think it's far more a dramatic series. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what sets this apart from most other things. I mean, my wife, his wife, both not into horror, but we've told them both they should watch it because it's more about the drama than it is the horror. So the show opens, and what it's opening on right now, with a car accident in which Riley Flynn has driven drunk and killed a young girl in Chicago. I think he says he's in Chicago. Resurrection was in Chicago.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah. So
Chicago connection.
he gets put into prison for 4 years. His family's from this small island called Crockett Island. It's a small island. I think here in a second it's going to show that the population of Crockett Island is something like 127, 137 people. So Riley gets out of prison and he goes home to Crockett Island. In the meantime, you figure out that the priest of the small Catholic church, St. Patrick's Catholic Church, which is actually my Catholic church and where I live too, is coming back to town after he's been out on a vacation to the Holy Land that the townspeople paid for. He's old, not doing well, so Bev Keane, one of the main people on there, is looking for him to get off the ferry. He doesn't get off the ferry. And then at the first mass they go to, a different priest shows up, introduces himself as Paul Hill. Riley Flynn's in the church because his parents want him to go, and his dad says he needs to go, whether he does and he believes in it or not. So Paul Hill introduces himself, says that Father Monsignor Pruitt, John Pruitt, is sick and he's on the mainland getting well, that he'll be back. So that's kind of like the opening introduction to the show. Mm-hmm. And as the show, and that kind of sets it up. It's hard to set this up, talk about this without spoiling things.
Yeah.
So I will say there's going to be spoilers here because we're going to get into the spoilers. Now, I am watching this part here with Riley. Every night he goes to bed, he sees the girl he killed. He lays on his side, and in the show the camera turns to an angle where it looks like he's standing up. He sees the girl he killed. So that's a recurring theme throughout the show. So basically, Paul Hill, the priest, starts preaching to these people in this Catholic church, and you get the feeling that something's a little weird about Paul Hill. Something's not right. He gives an old type church service that's not typical for the Catholic Church these days. That gets pointed out. And so you get a feeling something's not right. And as the show goes on, you slowly are revealed that Paul Hill knows a little bit more about what's going on with Monsignor Pruitt. And that Monsignor, I guess it's like episode 3 or 4 that it's the big reveal comes, that, things have happened. But nonetheless, you're introduced to all these townspeople. There's a main cast, and there's other townspeople. There's the mayor and his wife and their daughter Lisa, 127. Yeah, I saw it. It was 127. And their daughter Lisa, who was paralyzed after she got shot by the town drunk, Joe Colley. Joe Colley's a town drunk. You meet him. You got Sturge, who's like the harbor master. He deals with the boats and the electrical and the gas supply to the island. You got Lisa's parents, the mayor and his wife. You've got Riley's parents, the Flynns. I can't remember their names, but they both. The dad is kind of stilted emotionally, and the mom's kind of like doesn't want to believe that her son's not perfect, basically. So
from E.T.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Elliot.
Yes.
Yeah. Riley has a brother as well, who is like the altar boy for the church. And then the brother has a friend who's also an altar boy. it shows kind of how bored the kids are there. And then you have the sheriff. I can't remember his name, but he's a Middle Eastern guy, and then his son, Ali. Joe Collie always calls the sheriff Sharif, which is, I thought, pretty funny.
Yeah.
But and then of course you have Bev Keane, who I already mentioned, who you get the pretty feeling pretty quickly that Bev Keane's just a terrible person. But she's like the super religious person on the island, but she's clearly terrible. Let's see, who am I missing? Aaron Green, who's the town school teacher who used to date Riley Flynn when they were younger. She ran away off the island when she was 16 because her mom was a drunk. And now she's back doing the exact same job as her mom did, living in her mom's house. And pregnant, which is an important plot point for the show for a little while. And then you have Dr. Gunning.
Oh, yeah.
Played by Annabeth Gish,
Yes.
one of the other actresses you're going to recognize. And her mother, Miss Gunning, Sarah Gunning, who is in her 80s, probably 80s or 90s, and very...
Alzheimer's.
very much with Alzheimer's dementia. Yeah. Who is being played by a much younger actress. You can tell pretty easily on that one. So...
yeah, the makeup is not...
yeah, the makeup's not great in this show. You're also introduced to the innards, one area on the island where there's a bunch of cats, and that comes into play. Like somebody brought cats, they multiplied, there's like hundreds of cats on this little part of the island called the innards. And it's made clear that everything that comes off the innards washes up by Riley Flynn's house, by the Flynn's house. So, as the show goes on, you slowly get an idea. Well, when Paul Hill comes in, he's got this big trunk, this big steamer trunk, and he knocks on it twice, and something knocks back inside. So you know there's something in there, and it's not good. I'm watching the steamer trunk get unloaded by Paul Hill right now. So you get the feeling something's not right. And it's slowly revealed, and this is the big spoiler, that Paul Hill is actually Monsignor Pruitt. And when he was in Israel, he got lost from his tour bus in the Israeli desert and wandered upon this ancient church. He says it's a church. It looks like a tomb of some kind, or a cave. Like it's got really ancient ruins in it. And is attacked by what he believes is an angel. Looks like a vampire to me. But apparently the word vampire doesn't exist in this universe. Because
nobody can say vampire.
Even when things start happening that's clearly vampiric, nobody says vampire. Nobody.
Angel.
It never comes up.
It's an angel.
Father Pruitt, or Monsignor Pruitt / Paul Hill, calls it an angel. He believes because this angel bit him and then fed him the blood, because when he talks to the angel, I think the angel, I call it angel, it's a vampire. It's a demon of some kind. Takes pity on him and turns him into a vampire, essentially. Gives him his blood, and it makes him young again. He goes from like 90s to back in his like mid to late 30s, probably. Played by Hamish Linklater, who's a great actor. You've probably seen him on New Adventures of Old Christine. So he believes that this is like a gift from God, that he's supposed to go back to Crockett and heal everyone with this blood. His blood, the vampire's blood. So he's putting it into the wine that he's giving everybody. So he's giving the wine out each Mass, everybody who's taking communion, which Riley doesn't take communion because he doesn't feel like he should. And then there's like Dr. Gunning, who doesn't take communion. There's the Muslim sheriff that doesn't take communion. So there's a number of people who don't take communion, which plays into the show later. So as he's doing this, Lisa starts walking again. She's in a wheelchair. She starts walking again. There's a fantastic scene after she starts walking again where she goes to Joe Colley's trailer and tells Joe Colley, hey, I hate you. I can't stand you. You did this to me, but I forgive you. It's one of the better scenes I've ever seen in a TV show. It's emotional. It's really the sample of drama that you're going to see in this show. The dramatic portions of this show are fantastic.
Acting's great.
Acting's terrific in this show.
Right.
Almost all over. I mean, there's a couple of minor issues here and there, but mostly fantastic acting.
Yeah, the acting really grips you, though. I mean, it pulls you into the story so much, and you're really invested in all these characters.
Yeah, and at some point you do hear like what Father Pruitt, Monsignor Pruitt brought back the vampire, but you really don't see it until much later in the series when he explains what happened to him. And it's funny because he's explaining it to no one because he's doing it in a confessional, but he's talking to the viewer. It's an exposition dump, but it's done in a really good way. So as it's going along, Bev Keane figures out what's happened. She figures out that it's Monsignor Pruitt. Paul Hill is Monsignor Pruitt. This gets shared with the mayor and his wife and Sturge. So they all kind of buy into this for some reason. And they're like, again, vampire's not in their vocabulary. They think it's a gift from God as well, and that they have to do whatever, to do to make the town, saved by this. So Paul Hill, Monsignor Pruitt, comes up with a plan to just feed everybody this blood, and then he figures that he dies at some point. And it's never made clear why he dies and comes back, but I still think Bev Keane poisoned him to make it happen. And there's a whole subplot of Joe Collie owning this really, really violent-looking dog, but ultimately a sweet dog.
It didn't like her.
That didn't like Bev Keane. Bev Keane didn't like it. So that dog dies mysteriously, and there's this whole subplot with Compound 1080, which is a poison they used to kill a bunch of rats in the village. So it's pretty clear Bev Keane killed the dog, and I feel like she killed Paul Hill.
She had to,
because it's the dog dying and Paul Hill's death are the same thing.
Because I don't want to get too far ahead,
but
that is how that's how everybody else.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So it had to be.
We have a Jonestown situation that comes up in episode 6 of the show, where they tell everybody what's going on, and Sturge is like the guinea pig and drinks the Compound 1080 or whatever it's called, and he dies and comes back.
Exactly.
Showing you.
Exactly.
And they're vampires. Right. I mean, they're vampires at that point. So some people in the church take it. Some people are scared and don't want to do it. And then the church just turns into a huge bloodbath.
Yes.
Like all the people who became vampires, they just start killing everybody.
It's almost like from dusk till dawn.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is
at that point.
The interesting thing is like Riley Flynn's dead at that point too. He gets turned to a vampire by the ancient vampire that turned Father Monsignor Pruitt into a vampire because he discovered what was going on. He walked back into like the church, and the vampire attacked and killed him, and Father Pruitt wanted to bring him back. So Riley Flynn tells Aaron Green what's going on. Aaron's like, I must be crazy, I don't know what I'm hearing. But then the sun comes up, and Riley essentially sacrifices himself to tell Aaron to leave the island. But he said, I know you're not going to. You're going to go back and try to save everyone. Which she does.
Yeah. Her
and Dr. Gunning and whoever else, the sheriff, all try to save everybody.
Killed off the lead.
Yeah, it's shocking. You think he's killed twice, but he does die in 2 consecutive episodes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that it's a great scene too, where they're talking. They have a bunch of scenes together that are really good. Like they're talking about what do they think happens after death, and that scene comes back at the very end.
That's one of the great things about the show is the questions that they bring up and the conversations that they have about not just religion, but what you perceive things.
Yeah,
and really good questions that they ask throughout that.
Yeah,
it makes you think about certain things.
I saw a bunch of people like say, "Oh, as a lapsed Catholic, as an atheist, this show is great." But I'm a current Catholic, and I thought the show was great. And it's faith is not always unquestionable. That kind of stuff. The show makes that pretty clear, and I don't think it takes a stance one way or the other. I think it certainly takes a stance against religious zealotry in Bev Keane, and Paul Hill has a big turnaround. Monsignor Pruitt has a big turnaround in the show. And there's a revelation, and I won't even spoil this part, there's a revelation with Monsignor Pruitt and the Gunning family that is pretty interesting as well. I thought it was a nice touch to the show. But yeah, so ultimately, everyone in the town pretty much either becomes a vampire or is murdered by each other. But the interesting thing I thought there is that Riley Flynn's parents are turned. Not by choice. They didn't kill themselves. They got killed. Well, okay, his mom killed herself, but there's a whole story to that. But his dad gets turned by dying in the church, by being attacked. And he goes up and he finds his mom, who's been turned at that point, and basically says that I don't have any desire to kill anyone, because what this has done has made us hunger for it, but it hasn't changed who we are.
Right.
Which makes you think about, hey, all these other people, who were they really before?
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's not it's not an indictment of religious people, but it's an indictment of some religious people, I think. Especially Bev Keane. She's terrible.
Those are the ones that give religion a bad.
Yeah, there she is. She's on the screen.
She
right
does.
Now. She makes me want to puke.
She does.
She's an absolute perfect villain.
Oh.
She's the main villain of the show.
Yeah,
ultimately.
exactly.
It's not the vampires. It's her.
Yeah,
her zealotry.
She keeps that whole thing moving.
Yeah.
Because the priest gets weak at one point. And she's almost like, get up, let's do this.
She takes over. I mean, I think she's even like some of the reason behind Monsignor Pruitt doing a lot of this stuff. I think she kind of fed the ideas into his head. I don't think he intended to do exactly this. Like, because he did, like you said, he goes down at some point, and he intended for the people to become what they were in the church and not be let out for a while, so he could talk to them.
Right.
But Bev Keane had other plans. She opened the church doors and let him go out and kill everybody in the town. There's that one moment where they have that Howie, and Bev Keane's going to choose who lives and dies of the vampire crew,
Right.
And she's like, "Oh, Howie Hobbs, you haven't been to mass in years. I haven't seen you." And he's like, I killed my wife and my boys." And she's like, "Well, you're not welcome here." And at that point, Sturgis like, "But I turned him because he's always been nice to me." And it's that judgment thing that is being indicted there. That how religious people can be the most judgment-filled people,
and they can take scripture and twist it.
Yeah, and
to how they want.
Yeah.
To get.
Yeah, but Sturge, he kind of realizes that he's been following Bev Keane this whole time. And he kind of goes against her, and he's like, no, this isn't right. And he teams up with that one young kid that decided to be a vampire that was Flynn's brother's friend, and that kid's like, "Yeah, I think I killed my mom." It's like heartbreaking. These people have done things, and they don't even realize why they did it. And it is the drama in the show is just still like again fantastic.
An act of rage, and they just go blank.
Yeah, they just don't understand what they're doing. They just couldn't fight the urges like they should have. So, but yeah, overall, it's an excellent show. I highly recommend it. I mean, I've gone through the whole show. If you hadn't watched it before, now the spoilers aren't going to ruin it for you. You can still watch it. I promise you. It's a fantastic show. Mike Flanagan is one to watch now. I haven't watched Hill House or Bly Manor, but I'm probably going to go back and watch them now and see if they hold as much as this one. It's so good, and the music is really good throughout it too. Fantastic music.
I brought up jump scares. Mm-hmm. There's jump scares in this, but it's not. It's all done through the music.
Yeah,
it just goes. It hits those.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you said the music
makes you like, oh Lord.
Yeah, you said the music was recognizable, and you figured out a lot of it was from Ken Burns' documentary.
Ken Burns' documentary from Civil War. I think it's called Angel's Band.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard this, and it kept bugging me, so I had to look it up. And they slowed it down to. I thought that was my dog.
Yeah. That's Pike.
Yeah. Here he is. Yeah. But they slowed it down to kind of go along with the show. But it was excellent. Yeah.
Terrific show. Yeah. I highly recommend it. I guess we can rate it. I don't usually do
as far as a TV show.
Yeah, TV show.
Yeah.
It's hard to rate TV shows, but if I rate it against all other TV shows, I'm probably going to give it a perfect 5 stars.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I'd have to go with it. I have to agree with you.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. If you don't like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's a perfect TV show. I don't think it's too scary as a horror show. I think the drama far outweighs it, and then the scares aren't that bad. You should definitely watch it. Yeah. Anything else?
No. I think we hit everything.
All right.
So.
We'll see you next time.
Cheers. Happy Halloween.
I am so glad that you'll be with us for what comes next.